Good evening, dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of the Daily Debate. I'm your host for tonight, Muhammad Abdelrahim. From the heart of the Arab world is a nation that stands as a pillar of strength, a pillar of wisdom, and a pillar of leadership. That is the destiny of Egypt, the home of the world's most ancient civilization. Egypt has historically played a crucial role in supporting its neighbors, its Arab brothers and sisters, the Arab world, militarily, politically, economically, and culturally. We'll be talking about Egypt's huge influence on the region and on stability in this part of the world, the heart of the world, really, here tonight with our dear distinguished guest, Dr. Milad Momtaz, international relations expert. Always a pleasure to have you with us, Dr. Momtaz.
Pleasure is mine.
Thank you, Dr. Momtaz, for being with us, and we'll be doing that with a focus on the most pressing issue in the region right now, of course, the Gaza situation, and also the West Bank, the Palestinian cause in general, Dr. Momtaz and dear viewers. But first we'll be watching a report, if you'll allow us, Dr. Momtaz and dear viewers, and this report is about Egypt's role as a pillar in this part of the world in the past, present and future, simply because it is Egypt's destiny.
Egypt's leadership is navigating challenges in the Arab region through a strategy based on patience, wisdom, and an unwavering commitment to the country's national interest. In a world riddled with conflicts and geopolitical upheavals, Egypt stands out as a bastion of stability, strategically maneuvering through an increasingly volatile region. From Gaza to Libya and Sudan to broader international challenges, the Egyptian leadership has consistently demonstrated strategic patience, a calculated approach that balances restraint with decisiveness and ensures national security while maintaining regional influence. It is a sophisticated policy that allows Egypt to make a well-calibrated moves at the right moment. Through prudence, foresight, and an unwavering commitment to national interests, Egypt has successfully navigated a series of crises that could have destabilized lesser nations. Such resilience is a testament to the wisdom of its leadership, the strength of its institutions, and the steadfast support of its people. The ongoing crisis in Gaza has put the region on edge, with tensions threatening to spiral into an uncontrollable conflict. Yet, Egypt has emerged as the only reliable mediator in the crisis, and one that is both respected by all the parties and is fully aware of the broader strategic consequences of rash actions. Cairo has prioritized measured diplomacy over reckless rhetoric, ensuring that its approach is both morally responsible and strategically sound. Egypt's leadership has consistently acted to de-escalate tensions, protect civilian lives, and prevent further destabilization in the region, all the while maintaining a firm stance against terrorism and militancy. Libya is another front where Egypt's strategic patience has proven invaluable. Unlike external powers that have sought to exploit Libya's instability for short-term gains, Egypt has maintained a clear and consistent position. Libya's security is integral to Egypt's security. Egypt's decisive stance, most notably through its red line policy in Sirte and Jufra, has effectively curtailed the spread of armed militias and foreign intervention in Libya. By adopting a firm yet diplomatic approach, Egypt has played a key role in fostering intra-Libyan dialogue, while ensuring that extremist elements do not gain a foothold on its western border. The crisis in Sudan is another example of how Egypt's leadership has mastered the art of patience and proactive diplomacy. Egypt refrained from rash interventions. Instead, it pursued a balanced approach, offering humanitarian assistance, advocating for peace, and working through diplomatic channels to support Sudanese stability. Unlike other actors in the region, Egypt understands that Sudan's future cannot be dictated by external interests. It must be shaped by the Sudanese people themselves, with regional partners ensuring that peace and order prevail. Cairo's handling of this crisis reflects not only its deep historical ties with Sudan, but also its maturity as a regional leader.
All right, thank you very much, Manal El-Ibiari and Khalid Abdelbari, for this report. We're back here in the studio with international relations expert Dr. Milad Momtaz. And Dr. Momtaz, I want to focus on Gaza and on Egypt's role supporting the just Palestinian cause. But since the report really talked a lot about Sudan, and since there are a lot of fast developments now in Sudan with the Sudanese army seemingly making gains on the ground against the rebels, talk to us about Egypt's influence there, Egypt's position there from the start, supporting the Sudanese army.
First of all, concerning Sudan, we need to understand a crucial point here, that it's not only a matter of history that gets us together. It's something which is very deep, okay, about culture, about, I would say that, okay, that the security of the two countries. And since the whole thing of the conflict started in Sudan, we have been exerting, unceasing efforts regarding the thing and how to get, the different factions, and I mean it, on a table, and we discussed the whole situation about what's happening in Sudan. And since day one, I think, people who are following the situation in Sudan, I think they get this. Since day one, we have been trying to contact the different parties involved. We have been trying to convince or get them to realize how much dangerous the situation is. Because what we've been seeing now in Sudan for the last, I think now it's almost 2 years, since April 2023. So we're nearing 2 years now. The humanitarian crisis is unprecedented in Africa, by the way. Okay, I'd like actually, to be more precise on this. Okay, apart from what happened in Rwanda and Burundi early 1990s, okay, because that was too terrible. But I'm talking about the humanitarian crisis in Sudan is very, very critical. And let me actually point out something that Egypt has been doing since day one as well, allowing in our brethren from Sudan into Egypt. I don't want anyone to downplay this. I'm really sorry, because we actually we know that the situation in Sudan is very serious. However, okay, economically speaking, Egypt has been actually, suffering for the last couple of years since the coronavirus and the pandemic.
The Russia-Ukraine war, yeah.
Exactly. So we've been actually welcoming them. Okay, and actually, it's like in tens of thousands of our brethren from Sudan.
And this is what happened with Syrians as well.
Same thing with
when they were suffering from the of course, the ousted regime of Bashar al-Assad.
So that issue, to me, is very crucial. How to deal with the humanitarian crisis in Sudan, okay, and how to deal with the humanitarian crisis welcoming our brethren from Sudan into Egypt. Politically speaking, as I said earlier, that contacting the different parties, and by the way, we have had different summits here in Egypt, different conferences.
Gathering factions.
Last one, it wasn't all about, okay, the factions in July of last year. Okay, I think a summit was held here in Cairo, getting the different neighboring countries of Sudan.
Right.
Okay, to discuss the whole situation in details, and to get them to work together, okay, to find like a solution to this very pressing issue. We know how critical is the situation in Sudan. It is very critical. And media, yeah, of course, situation in Gaza is very critical as well. Situation in Sudan is very critical. So we need actually, as Egypt has been doing, and this is once again, let me quote you, at the start of the discussion, as you said, and in the report as well, that is our destiny. That is our fate. We know that we have pressing issues in different neighboring countries. And by the way, we shouldn't forget about Libya. I was about to mention Libya. So if we take into consideration the entire picture, of course, we shouldn't forget about our brothers in Yemen as well, and in Syria, and what's going on. But when we consider the situation in these three different areas, Sudan, Libya, Gaza, what's happening in the Red Sea, what's happening, and we shouldn't forget about this, the Mediterranean Sea as well, because we have, the natural gas there, and we should pay attention to this as well. So Sudan has been very pressing. We haven't forgotten about Sudan, and we will not forget about Sudan by all measures. However, we need something else. I'd like actually to mention it here. The international community engagement in this crisis. Unfortunately, it's so minimal. Unfortunately, it's insignificant.
The world is preoccupied, as it seems, by the Russia-Ukraine war, by the Gaza situation, now the West Bank situation as well. Now, there is something, because Israel is, continuing its war crimes in the West Bank now, that there's a ceasefire in Gaza that they wanted to evade, seemingly. I want to talk about Gaza now, Dr. Momtaz, and the huge responsibility here that Egypt bears. I mean, from one side, Egypt is the mediator that, along with Qatar and the US, reached the ceasefire. Egypt is the one that hosts the Hamas delegations here, or the Hamas-Fatah talks here. Egypt is the one that is tasked with spearheading the Arab position, the clear Arab position, regarding the Trump proposal of displacing Palestinians. We don't still understand whether Mr. Trump wants to buy Gaza or occupy Gaza or control Gaza, I mean, and buy it from who and sell it to who. I mean, there's a lot of confusion here. But Egypt is tasked with spearheading the Arab position. Egypt is the one that clearly said it. No displacement of Palestinians from their own lands from the very, very start, from October 2023. And Egypt is the one tasked with bearing the pressure as well, because there is a lot of pressure from the world's lone superpower. Egypt is tasked with a lot of, with getting in the aid, the required aid through the Rafah border. I mean, Egypt is tasked with so much. How do you see us faring?
Again, let me quote you once again. It's destiny. When you are actually, the big brother or the big sister, that's Egypt. And by the way, these are not just mere big words. It's not something rhetorical that we use. I'm really sorry, it's factual. And once again, let me go back to history, because history never lies. I know that some people would prefer to twist it sometimes, but actually, it's very clear. And by the way, it's not only since October 7th of 2023. Let me go back to 1940s and 1930s and the war of 1948 and the Nakba and the 50,000 people who got displaced, kicked out, expelled from their land. And let me actually emphasize this once again and again, their land. Because I'd like to go back to Mr. President's proposal, Mr. Donald Trump's proposal. So we've been doing that for decades, not for the last 15 or 16 months. So
right.
When we do it once again, when we go back actually doing this, 2023 till today, I think that's not surprising. It's not shocking to anyone, by the way. And okay, we get it as Egyptians, we get this, and everyone knows, even the simple man walking on the street, he gets this, that's what, yeah, that's our duty.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that everyone knows once again that it's overwhelming. And that is a great responsibility. Economically, politically speaking, it is a great responsibility. We get it as Egyptian people, and we accept it as Egyptian people and as political leadership, not only as Egyptian people. And that's why, let me quote Mr. President a couple of days ago, as he was talking about the Palestinian cause. He said that it's the Egyptian people themselves, they wouldn't agree, no matter what about the displacement. So it's about the will of the Egyptian people, the will of the political leadership. And I wonder myself, you know, Egyptians never change since 1930s, 1940s. And I think if you ask some Egyptian back then, 1930s and 40s, about their situation regarding, the Palestinian cause, I think we would get the same answers, almost the same answers, throughout history for the last 80 years.
Well, there's no question that Egyptians have sacrificed for the just Palestinian cause for decades, and the situation here is very different. You had mentioned that Egypt happily accepted Sudanese, Syrians, and Yemenis, but would not happily accept Palestinians being displaced, forcefully displaced from their own lands, because this would liquidate the Palestinian cause. And President Sisi has made it very clear that Egypt will never take part in such an unjust process or in any unfair practice to the Palestinians, because this not only, of course, it does threaten Egypt's national security, and this is something very important. We've seen the army and the police in Sinai already, as always, but because it also liquidates, mainly because it liquidates the just Palestinian cause, and it is against international law, humanitarian norms, and Egypt has always been a country that respects international law, a voice for peace.
Totally agree with you. Okay. However, let me actually mention something that I believe it's simple, however, it's very crucial. Let's say, supposedly, hypothetically speaking, let's say that Egypt actually agreed. Don't you feel that contradicts what we have been doing for the last 80 years? So why we fought that war in 1948? If that the case, if Egypt actually was of that point of view back then in 1930s and 40s, we would have agreed. I think it would have been very simple to do this in 1940s, in 1948. But we fought that war in 1948, and we fought that war once again in 1967, and then 1973. And we shouldn't forget what happened in 1956. So with all these, what I would call it like what episodes on the way, and then we'd come now in 2025 and we would say that we give up. I think that actually is not possible. I wouldn't use the word impossible despite the fact that it fits the situation. Okay, but it doesn't make any sense to Egyptians. Okay, and as I said a couple of minutes ago, that it's us, and we never change, and we don't forget about this, and we will not forget, and we will actually, even tend to perceive it in a different way, even.
Now, I was surprised when I saw a story today about a former, of course, Turkish leading politician who was a member of Turkish President Erdogan's party, Ahmed Davutoglu.
Yeah.
He was saying that why won't we make a referendum in Gaza and ask them if they want to join Turkey and have self-rule, in what seemed to be a response, an unrealistic response to an unrealistic proposal. by Mr. Trump, but I want your comment on that, because I mean this is Gaza. I mean, Gaza belongs to the Palestinians, and now we have an American president who wants to buy it. And of course, Mr. Davutoglu is not does not bear an official position today,
Yes.
but he's a leading figure. I mean,
politically speaking,
and respected as well in Turkey. So I don't know if this was, you know, just responding to Mr. Trump to maybe to make him realize that what he proposed is simply like, you know, I don't know. You tell us what you think.
Okay, my understanding goes like what? It's the season of thinking out of the box. Okay, and I think people are some people are mistaken about this. And we need to actually clarify people on this very crucial point. Thinking out of the box does not mean by all means that you think sporadically. This is different. This is totally different. Nonsense is not thinking out of the box. That is called nonsense. And nonsense is totally different. Okay, what has been proposed by Mr. Trump, by the way, that's not new. That's not new. Let me put it straightforward. Mm-hmm. It's been on the table since 1940s. Mm. They want to get rid of what? Palestinians, just to get done with the whole thing. We, you know, clear the area, the land, it's ours, we put our flag, okay, it's case closed now. So once again, the proposal or this way of thinking is being always there, and has been, by the way, I think to most, if not all Israelis, that is their dream.
Yeah, I mean, we saw how they were happy. I mean, how they reacted. Yeah. They were joyous, they were ecstatic really at Mr. Trump's proposal, as you mentioned. But okay, so if this happens, and if this is the Israeli greed, then what's next? After God, again, theoretically or hypothetically speaking, yeah. Okay, so there goes the Gazans out. There are the Gazans out, and then what's next? The Palestinians of the West Bank go out. And then what's next? Sinai? I mean, this is what we have to think this way. I mean,
totally agree.
Will it be Rafah and Sheikh Zuwayr? I mean, this is our lands, and we have to think about Sinai. I mean, the Israeli greed. I'm just asking about the Israeli greed. What's next? So you cannot let go of Gaza or the West Bank because it's Palestinians' land. It's their legitimate right. It's international law, and because Egypt and Jordan and Syria and Saudi Arabia have to think, and Lebanon, have to think about their own lands as well, and protect it from potential Israeli greed, maybe 5 years down the line, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We don't know.
Once again, totally agree with you, and let me go back to what Mr. Trump said a couple of days ago, because he has been in power just for 3 weeks now, and he has been causing that kind of tsunami around the world now, with the shock waves actually spreading out everywhere. He was sitting at the Oval Office, and of course he is very cool what happened about, okay, and he gave that kind of analogy of what his table and the pen and the tip of the pen, and that's Israel. As you can see, the table, my table actually is very big, and that's the Middle East, and Israel is very small, and that doesn't make sense by all means. It wasn't the first time to talk about this, by the way. And then I got shocked myself. Are you sure about that analogy? Okay, that, I'm sorry, you're not into politics. We know it. Everyone knows about this, that you're not a politician, but you shouldn't go that far. Okay, this actually table is vacant, but the Middle East is not. You're talking about sovereign countries. There are countries and there are people, and historically speaking, these countries have been there for thousands of years. It doesn't make any sense that out of the blue, and we say, you know what, Israel is small, and we should work. What kind of message? I wonder myself, what kind of message? And whom he is addressing? I don't get it. Are you addressing the American people? I think you're talking about the people who funded your campaign. I'm really sorry, straightforwardly.
And it seems the Israelis got the message that they can do anything they want, for now at least, with the ceasefire agreement. They can violate the ceasefire agreement. They can prevent potential aid from trickling in, the caravans, the food and oil and other stuff. And they can ask for more hostages to be freed, and they can delay the first phase, and maybe they want to cancel all this out. I mean, what's going to happen with the ceasefire agreement? Egypt has spent, and Qatar have spent great efforts, and the U.S. is the third mediator, supposedly, in saving what was going to happen these days. I mean, we were going to have the first phase down, but because of Egypt and Qatar and probably, hopefully the U.S. as well, things were saved.
Okay, my understanding is that, okay, with the proposal of the American president, I think one of the direct results or implications that that we forget about the ceasefire. There is no ceasefire, because actually his proposal goes into that we get done with all of this. It's simple. The other day I was listening to him. I think it was a press conference or something like that, and he said, okay, transporting or moving 2.3 million people is not a big deal. And then once again, what you're talking about, Mr. President? Do you believe it's that simple, talking about kicking out, expulging? Okay, that's an expulsion of more than 2 million people like this. Is it that simple? Don't you consider any sort of, issues or problems?
Well, he's portraying it from a humanitarian...
it's not true.
Of course. But he's saying that they're going to have a better life, they're going to be happy, they may return if they denounce violence. But Egypt has responded and saying, we have a plan. Egypt has a plan and will present clear plans to rebuild Gaza, to reconstruct Gaza, while Palestinians remain on their own land, practicing their natural right.
Okay, I have a simple comment regarding this, because actually some people say, okay, since Arabs don't have a plan, so we should follow Mr. President's plan, Mr. Trump's plan. And I don't agree, why? Because yes, we have our own plan, and that's great. The Egyptian plan is there on the table if you'd like to discuss it. But you have a different perception, not a different plan. You have a different goal, not a different plan. If you are seeking plans, we can come up with whatever plans, and we're talking about feasible one, practical, just ones. But you have a different goal.
If the Israelis respect the accords.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, supposedly we should have had more caravans, more transportable or movable homes inside Gaza by now. They are trying to derail everything. They are trying to, and the Smotrich and Ben Gvir are talking about even preventing any aid from reaching Gaza. And Netanyahu might listen to them.
Once again, as I said, okay, it's about the goal, the final goal. What is the final destination? I would like to ask the cabinet, the radical cabinet in Israel now, in Tel Aviv, that, okay, what is your final destination? What's your final goal? Okay, are you after peace? They denounce it peace. And that's unfortunate to all of us. We need to consider this, and themselves, Israelis, I think they have to understand the fact that, okay, that peace serves everyone. Peace benefits everyone in the region. So if you're not seeking peace, that's a huge issue. And something else about the analogy, okay, that Mr. Trump actually mentioned about the desk and the table. Okay, are you of the point of view that Israelis would be there, only them in the region, no one else, no neighbors at all? They should have their neighbors, and they should learn how to cooperate to deal with their neighbors the right way, the peaceful way. But as we always bring up the issue of what, okay, that all our neighbors are what, okay, that they want to get rid of us. They want to, don't you want to consider the fact that what we want peace as well?
No, actually, we now understand that it's Israel who wants to get rid of all its neighbors.
Exactly.
It's not all of, I mean, the situation is very clear now.
Because
look at what's
Westerners-
happening in Syria. I mean, look at the lands being taken from Syria. Look at the violation of the agreement in Lebanon, the 1701, the West Bank, Gaza. Look at the statements against Saudi Arabia. I mean, those were atrocious, those were shocking statements by the Israeli premier.
What they say always is what they use one word. It's defensive. It's never offensive. We never tend to do this. You get us to do that, and they have never tried to understand the fact that, okay, that, for example, President Sadat, he actually went there, and he talked about peace, and he meant peace, and he worked for that, and actually that was translated into Camp David, and it was very obvious, and we have been respecting that for the last more than 40 years now. Okay, and now I'm really sorry, they are testing out this.
Right, right.
And this is very crucial.
Indeed. Dr. Momtaz, dear viewers, allow us to watch a second report. It is about Egypt playing a crucial role in leading the Arab group at the United Nations. Then we'll come back and wrap up the episode. Please stay with us.
Egypt's permanent representative to the United Nations, Osama Abdel Khaliq, stressed that deterrence and balance of power are key to maintaining peace and stability worldwide, noting that the Middle East is no exception. Israel begins preparations for Gaza exodus. In a telephone call with the French President Macron, President El-Sisi said that Egypt categorically rejects any proposal to liquidate Palestinian cause through displacement. International community must bear its responsibility to implement two-state solution. Yet Egypt is committed to peace as a strategic choice, as Egypt was the first to lay the foundations of peace in the Middle East. Egypt remains fully capable of defending its national security with a strong national army, a defensive military doctrine, and deterrence capabilities. Egypt has prioritized securing a ceasefire, ensuring the flow of humanitarian aid to Palestinians, and firmly rejecting the forced displacement of Palestinians from their land. The collective efforts of Egypt, Qatar, and the United States in securing a ceasefire agreement in Gaza are widely welcomed. Egypt played a crucial role in leading the Arab group in the UN, presiding over it in December 2023 and again in January 2025. Under Egypt's leadership, the group successfully passed 4 UN Security Council UNSC resolutions, including Resolution 2735, which called for a ceasefire. Speaking strongly at the UNSC multiple times, Egypt reiterated the Arab group's firm stance in support of the Palestinian people's resilience and opposition to any infringement on their inalienable rights. This unwavering Arab position aligns with the stance of Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, who has clearly stated that Egypt cannot condone the oppression of Palestinians or the liquidation of their cause. As a result, Egypt maintains its firm rejection of any forced displacement of Palestinians. Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdelati, along with other Arab ministers, formally conveyed this position to the US at the highest political levels, he said. Egypt hosted a meeting on the 30th of January at its UN mission headquarters with UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the Arab group. During the meeting, they reaffirmed their core principles, including Egypt's firm opposition to ethnic cleansing and forced displacement of Palestinians. Egypt reaffirmed its categorical rejection of any proposal or plan to liquidate the Palestinian cause by displacing Palestinians from their historic homeland, even temporarily, asserting it would not be a party to such a plan.
Thanks again, Manal Al-Ibyari and Khaled Abdelbari for this report. And we're back here with international relations expert Dr. Milad Momtaz. Dr. Momtaz, what are your expectations for the upcoming, I was going to say weeks, and now I'm going to say days. On Saturday is going to be an important day where seemingly things are now have cooled down and we're going to have the first phase continue. But negotiations about the second phase have been long delayed, 10 days now. What should we expect in the talks about the second phase? Will there be a second phase? Was Mr. Trump just trying to save Netanyahu's government? Will Netanyahu's government remain in place? What's going to happen?
Okay, we're hoping, first of all, okay, that when the negotiation for the second phase actually would start as soon as possible. Okay, we're very, of course, happy deep down that, okay, that it's the sixth phase of the first one of the swap of the hostages and the prisoners. It's on, after tomorrow and Saturday,
yes,
hopefully that would happen, you know. However, at the same time, I'd like to highlight something which I find it as very, very fundamental. Yes, we have been talking about tensions and mounting tensions in the region. However, we shouldn't forget that Egyptian diplomacy is very efficient. As you mentioned, I'd like to stress on this. We believe in peace, and we mean it, as I said before. And we will never give up on peace.
But Israel is testing that.
Exactly, unfortunately. But we shouldn't forget that it wasn't easy in 1970s, and we got it right in 1979. I'd like to remind everyone of that yes, you know, negotiations are difficult, diplomacy is difficult, but we can make it happen. We can get there. We can reach that point. Regardless of the difficulties, regardless of the endless obstacles and barriers, but we can get there.
What do you think is going to happen with Netanyahu's government?
You know, they have an election next year in 2026. You know, President Trump has been supporting Netanyahu, you know, to be able to continue with his cabinet till the elections of next year. Of course, that's not guaranteed. It's not that simple. It's not that easy. But I think that's kind of plan that both of them are playing together. This is the kind of game, political game, you know. And at the same time, you know, Netanyahu is hoping that we get our hostages back, and then when it comes to the next day's plan, we are hoping that to get what we want. You know, he has been dreaming of getting rid of Hamas. Is he done with Hamas?
No.
I think that's not only a simple question. It's a crucial one. Are you done with them?
Of course not.
You know, and they have to answer that question.
And that was an unrealistic goal from the very start.
Exactly.
The goal was, as you said, Mr. Momtaz, Dr. Momtaz, is to get Palestinians out. That's the goal.
He couldn't even...
Ethnic cleanse, that's the goal. Get the 2 million out.
Okay.
And get the 3 other million out from the West Bank. And penetrate into Syria and go into Lebanon and think about what's next. I mean, it's all
Greater Israel.
The
Greater Israel.
The Israeli
dream.
Yeah, and you had asked the question when you said, do they want peace? And the question is, if I'm the one who answers, they don't want peace. But they want peace and security at the same time, but not peace, they want security. But how can they get security without peace? And this was the Saudi response. I mean, we're not going to have relations with, Riyadh said clearly, and it's been repeating this very clearly, systematically. There are no diplomatic relations with Israel unless there is a Palestinian state. Unless the two-state solution is there. Borders of June 4th, 67, East Jerusalem, Al-Quds capital, that's the Egyptian position, the Saudi position.
Basics.
They're the basics. That's the Arab position, that's international legitimacy.
What I'm afraid of, and I got to be straightforward and honest about this.
Israelis don't want a two-state solution.
Okay.
Now. Nobody in Israel believes in a two-state. Even those politicians who used to believe in a two-state solution, they now denounce it.
What I'm afraid actually of is that, okay, they want peace their way, okay, or the highway to everyone else. That's what I'm afraid of. Okay, what they want or they are been seeking is submission, not peace. And we're not going to do this by all means. We are not submissive. And once again, when we say that Egypt is a peace-loving nation, that doesn't mean and shouldn't be translated that we are a submissive nation.
No,
We're not. We are not. And they have seen it. I think they should be reminded of what happened in 1973. Okay, it's history.
And they've seen, I mean, look at the heroics of the people of Gaza, really. I mean, that's heroic. The steadfastness of the people of Gaza, despite all of what happened. I mean, the sacrifice, tens of thousands killed, martyred, many of them women and children. Did you see them when they crossed from the south to the north? Because are these people who are going to sell their land to who? Are these people who are going to let go of their cause? They're going to fight until they get their legitimate rights.
Totally agree. Okay, the point is, okay, that what you have seen there, and it was on camera, it wasn't staged, it was real, very real, and you have seen it. And then we would find the American proposal. The American proposal, okay, does not get that fact. What you have seen is a fact.
Because we only have a couple of minutes, sorry to interrupt you, but I have to ask you about this, because when Mr. Trump was asked about the two-state solution, his answer was not very clear. I mean, it was not a yes, I believe in it, or a no, I don't believe in it. And Egypt has, and the Arab position led by Egypt and Saudi Arabia is very clear. We have to move forward to the path of a two-state solution, and that's the way to bring about peace in the region. Do you think Mr. Trump is going to go along that way? And because also Egypt has said clearly it wants to cooperate with the Trump administration on that path. Peace for all, two-state solution.
Okay, Mr. Trump has never mentioned, two-state solution. I've been actually following, Mr. Trump since the presidential campaign, and I've been waiting for this, to utter it once. He has never mentioned this.
But he has not said that he's against it.
Okay, never mentioning it. I think I wouldn't say that, okay, he doesn't want this. Okay, but he should have mentioned, because actually, previous or all former American presidents since 1970s, they have been actually stressing on this, that the two-state solution. First one, he wouldn't mention it, Mr. Trump, unfortunately.
And it's, of course, important to remember that Gaza is Palestinian land. So it's not a West Bank Palestinian state. I mean, it's the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza.
Exactly.
These are the Palestinian lands.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Milad Momtaz, international relations expert. Always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear viewers, for watching us. Please stay with Nile TV.